So we get to speak to really cool people on my Zooms. And one such person, actually, I think the coolest person we've spoken to so far, don't tell anyone else, is Bongani Chinkanda. I said that. Chinkanda. Sorry, I said that. Chinkanda.
That's fine.
He's doing amazing things and putting his body through so much to raise awareness for something that a lot of us struggle with. Bongani, I'm very, very honored to meet you, and I can't wait to unpack all of this.
Sure. Hi. Thanks for having me. So, talking about putting my body, I've actually got a sore throat, and I needed to train today. And I've just come back from a 1.5 hour ride. It was an easy one because I need to keep training for this craziness that I'm doing on the 7th of May. So thanks for having me.
Okay.
I am putting my body through the most at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully, you know what? Hopefully you're going to inspire the rest of us to at least do something. Because a lot of us are still living in pre-lockdown removal life and not moving at all. So to fill you in, if you're watching and you're like, what? An hour's easy ride. What is this man training for? So Bongani is cycling 160 kilometers. He's cycling from Hartbeespoort to Sun City to raise awareness for anxiety and depression. And this is something that I definitely want to talk about, and I definitely want to talk about it with respect, as much respect as I could possibly with white privilege do, but with respect to the Black community, because I come from a mixed race family, and it's something that is not discussed in that side of my family at all, not at all. And you can see it in family members, but you're not allowed to say anything. And if you do, it's almost a sense of, no, but if they work harder, if they hustle harder, they'll be fine. It's because there's too much downtime is the vibe that I get. But Bongani, the only reason that someone undertakes doing this is because they have struggled and overcome something. I want to know from you, if you're willing to share, have you struggled with anxiety and depression?
Yeah, no, I'm willing to share. I think, and that's the purpose of this whole thing is being able to be given platforms like this for me to be able to share. So in 2015, a business that I owned and ran failed, and had to close that down. And it really took a knock, as entrepreneurs say, and I don't say it anymore, my baby basically died. And I fell into a deep clinical depression because it was quite a traumatic event, because a lot of things happened at one time. And subsequent to that, over a period of 4 months, actually around this time, I was in a clinic in 2016, being treated for anxiety and depression because I tried to commit suicide. Wow. And I had to be admitted. My psychiatrist said I need to go into hospital if I will ultimately survive, because I was having panic attacks due to the anxiety at the office. So fast forward to 2022, I think it was Ricky Rick's death just made me think to sort of pause and say, what if I had spoken to him, and we had a conversation about this and whatever he was battling with, and I was able to make him see otherwise, because not to sound boastful, but I'm probably one of many people, but if you talk about it, who actually know how he was feeling the hours before he passed on. And I remember posting to say, people don't die of suicide. People die of depression, because it's like when you got cancer and it reaches stage 4 and it's the end. I think suicide is the stage 4 of depression, where ultimately you just out of your body, and your mind is fighting to survive, but your body is just given up and it's tired and it wants to go. So I'm an avid mountain biker. Started cycling 2 years ago.
Okay.
Last year with friends of mine, after doing my first marathon. So a marathon is 70 kilometers. I did my first marathon last year in May. And then with a friend of mine from Malawi, because I grew up in Malawi and my folks are there. And I normally, when I can, go home in December. It's like, no. Why don't we ride from Blantyre, which is in the south, to the lake? I was like, how many kilometers is that? He's like, it's about 300. I was like, sure, let's do it. So we cycled for 3 days, right? Through villages, remote areas. It wasn't on the road. And I had this bag. It was about this big. And my life for those 3 days was in there. My toothpaste, my change of clothes, my medicines, my everything was in there, right? And we cycled 86 kilometers the first day. The second day was 60 kilometers. And then the third day, it was 120 kilometers. Yep. Then flew back home to Joburg over Christmas. I'm like buggered. I'm like, what am I going to do next year? So then I'm like, no, let me do an ultra marathon. So an ultra marathon is 100 kilometers and above. And I found this race called Race to the Sun. It's an organized race sponsored by King Price. I entered it, so I'm not anything like I didn't organize it or anything. So I entered it like you'd enter the Comrades or the Cape Town Cycle Tour, and decided to do 160 kilometers. Then again, all my cycling endeavors are dedicated to people with depression and anxiety. And this time I was like, let me do it differently, right? So at 2:00 in the morning, it was a week after Ricky Rick had passed away. And because it kept bothering me, I said, why don't I raise 160,000 Rand over 160 kilometers and give it to the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, because they offer free counseling to people. And you can imagine the statistics say 1 in 3 South Africans will suffer from a mental health issue in their lifetime, right? That's a lot of people, right? So it's you, me, and the person behind Zoom, the producer, so one of us, or probably all of us at some point. And these guys are selfless because it's an NPO, self-funded, donors give, and they've got 200 volunteers that work for free. They've got counselors, and now they're going to underserviced communities like Diepsloot, Ivory Park. And I found this out just recently, but my campaign started about 4 weeks ago. And I was like, let me do that. Let me give to that. So I'm putting my body on the line and asking people to support me in this endeavor. Because this is a conversation that we need as a nation. And I was saying to a friend of mine, we're having a Zoom call as well yesterday. I said, I think as a country, and I don't know about the world, but I think as a country, we sort of need a moment, and I don't know who can lead it, to take us and just understand what we went through as a nation with COVID. Mm-hmm. It is not normal for people to close down businesses, for people to die. People die, but in a week, you'd hear your friend's mom, your friend who somebody's boss, a celebrity. It was just like this thing. And then it was the riots in July, and then it's the petrol price. And when the president would come on TV, you just imagine okay, so are they locking us up? Are they what? Imagine people in the alcohol industry, what they've gone through, So it's that, and I'm like, you know what? In my little corner, on my little bike, I'm going to create the noise and have this conversation. So that's why I'm doing this thing.
Okay, so I have many questions for you. One of the big ones, I think, is depression, and stories like Ricky Rick's story, and I speak from personal experience as well. Depression doesn't happen overnight. You don't get to that point tomorrow. It creeps in slowly, and it creeps in over time. And I think a lot of people don't know what that is. That feeling of malaise, that feeling of not having anything to look forward to. There's just those small little steps every day that you go for and you ignore them because you're just like, I'm sad, I'm tired, I haven't slept properly, I'm having too much coffee, whatever it could be. And you make these excuses in your head, right? And you tell yourself this narrative and this story until eventually one day it happens all at once, right? What was that for you? What were those steps and how long did they take?
So I think for me, it took about my business. I fought to keep my business going for like maybe a good 6 months.
Sure.
And then in September 2015, I was like, I'm shutting it down. I called my competitor and I said, I need a job. So you can imagine, I've shut down my business. I'm going to work for my competitor.
Wow.
I need to tell the world. I need to tell my employees. I need to tell the bank. I need to tell my family. I need to open up to my wife the depth of the troubles that we're in. Imagine constant anxious conversations I'm having every day, and I'm not making any money, right? And also there's that worry. So it was from September, October, November, December, Jan, Feb, March. That's when I tried to commit suicide. It was these things compounding, and I was a runner then. So there was a point I couldn't run even a kilometer, like literally, I couldn't run. Then it was because as any one of us, when we're going through a stressful time, we do stay up. You worry, maybe you have a sleepless nights. I think my sleepless nights, yes, my sleepless nights became no sleeping at all. I would sleep at 11 at night and wake up at 1. I mean, that's not sleeping. I would literally hear the birds from like 3 a.m. and see the sunrise. The tough thing is during the day, I want to sleep now because I'm tired. So at night, you don't want to sleep, but during the day, you want to sleep. So the whole thing is messed up. So it was all that, and that work I wasn't performing. So I'm a very driven individual, probably a type A personality. That's why I put my body through what I put it through. And I love selling. I like closing deals. I'm an entrepreneur. I like having conversations, solving problems. And literally, I remember like being in the office once, and one of my one of my subordinates looks at me like, "Are you okay? I just need you to make this decision," and I couldn't, and I had a panic attack. And I remember telling a friend of mine that working for that competitor, I literally was leaving my heart in the basement in the car. And I would go up with my head because I just had to work. It had to make sense. I had to provide for the family. I had to at least try and start paying the bills. For my employees, took me to the CCMA. So I'm in the office with a new job, but still dealing with all these things. So you just hard to manage. So it was that time. So going into hospital helped, but it didn't go away. The troubles, some of them are still here. I'm still paying off credit cards and other debts. But going into hospital helped me compartmentalize failure, right? Because I think many of us, when we fail, which we all do at some point, we'll fail in marriage, we'll fail in business, we'll fail in our careers. Because life is like that. I think to grow, you have to fail. You can never avoid it. And that's why sometimes I let my sons or my employees fail, because if they're going to grow, they have to fail. You can't protect them. So what I learned, and I remember it's Zig Ziglar. He says, failure is an event and not a person. And that, for me, helped me get out of my depression. I remember I'd look at myself in the mirror after post the hospital, heavily on antidepressants and sleeping tablets. And I would say, failure is an event. My business failed. I did not fail.
Yeah.
I am not a failure. Sorry. I did fail in that business, but I am not a failure because I had taken that on. And that's what made me depressed. So I built my life back over a period of time. And I think the other challenge with most of us is when we have failed, we want the quick fix, right? We want it to all go away.
I want to feel better tomorrow. What can I take?
I want to
what
feel
can
better
I do?
tomorrow.
Yeah.
And by the time you're millions of rand in debt, it's been years that's been accumulating. Yeah. So it's going to take years for you to get out of it.
100%.
Right. And it's important to always have that perspective. And then the other flip side to it is depression is a disease that affects anybody. It doesn't matter race, class, income, wealth, whatever, address where you stay. It will still get you if you don't manage your situation and your life properly. So that's why it's important to get to know, as you're saying, that as you're starting to feel down and out, always ask yourself, how long have I been feeling like this for? Because once it starts going into weeks where you're feeling demotivated, where you're feeling like, nah, I just don't feel like, and your friends say, let's go out or let's go hiking. I just want to be in bed. And the other side is you're self-medicating with different things, alcohol, drugs, all sorts of behavior.
Food, whatever. It can be
Netflix, food, anything, because you just want to be alone. You know that there's trouble. So that's sort of what I experienced over that period.
So we've spoken about this a lot on my show, and I always come back to the guys at the South African Depression and Anxiety Group understand. And I know that a lot of people, when I say reach out, they're like, but to who and how? I can't even get myself out of bed. All you need to do is pick up that phone. That's all you need to do. Dial the number. You don't even really have to say much. And I can tell you this from experience because I've actually called.
And I have as well.
They speak you through a lot of it. All you need to do is find the strength within yourself to just dial the number. That's all you have to do.
It's a toll-free number.
Yeah, it's a toll-free number. And like Bongani said earlier, there are so many counselors. There is always someone who's going to answer the call. And if they can't help you immediately, they will refer you to someone, regardless of your financial situation. That is all figure outable. You being here and you feeling like you belong here and you should be here is far more important than anything else. Everything else will come secondary. But on this, Bongani, we recently had, and it's not my story to tell, but I do speak of it. A family member of mine, a Zulu man, he had been going through a lot of things, business things, family things, children things, lots of things, and attempted suicide earlier this year. And it was almost like it was shameful. There was a shameful thing about him feeling down. When I was in the parking lot, when the ambulance was there were a couple of his friends in the parking lot, also Black men, very well off, very well-to-do men. And the conversation around that parking lot was, we've all felt this way. And it's not the first time we've seen this in our circle. And I'm talking about like success, massive success. Monday nights, Makhanda Mondays, and business deals, and world travel, and Gucci, everything.
Sure.
And you're standing amongst a group of men who felt comfortable to tell me, because I am, have gone through this, but could never tell each other before this moment. And I feel like if at these Mondays, at these events, at these things, if we could maybe just speak about it, but I am obviously speaking from a position where I don't understand the culture enough. How do we start this conversation?
So I think it starts in the home. I think men, we are under pressure as it is. And many will say, but you're a man, what do you know about pressure? And that's the thing, right? I think both genders and all genders are going through different challenges. And what's important, what men are trying to understand, it is what is their role now in society, right? Because when we wake up as a Black man, when we hear on Jacaranda FM the news that a family was murdered, or a woman was raped, or a woman was found in a car burned, the first picture that you have in your mind is of a black male, right? And you get shocked. I mean, we got shocked that Oscar did what he did, because the expectation was it should have been a black male. And this is the things that we go through as men who are just trying their best to provide for themselves, for their families, for their wives, for the extended families, and just live. And so we face all these pressures that we don't know. And you don't want to be the guy that fails his family because it will be another black guy has done it. So it's not a cultural thing, but more a societal thing.
Yeah.
Because I know that even Afrikaners, as a man, you can't show weakness. You know, even as English people, even as Indian men, even as Tswana men. I'm from Malawi. It's the same thing. There's a thing about there's an unspoken code of saying you need to be a man. Men don't cry. Men don't show weakness. You can't be emotional in front of your wife. You can't tell your wife you can't anymore. I can't do this, my boss. And the flip side to it, and I'm not victim blaming. The flip side to it is that I also sometimes think our spouses and our mothers and our sisters don't give us that room to speak and be vulnerable.
100%.
Why I say that is, if we work with statistics, South Africa, 60% of South Africa is, or even maybe more, is raised by single mothers.
Yes.
Right? So these men are being raised by women. So it means that they're not being able to speak, and I'm not blaming it on the mothers, is somehow linked to how we are raised. The statistics speak for themselves, right? The other thing is not having male role models who speak up when things are tough.
Yeah.
What we've got is I mean, I rarely see videos of women fighting. I mean, I don't think if it was a female comedian that made a joke about Will Smith, I don't think Jada would have gone and slapped her, because I don't think so. If she did, it would have been more of a shock than what Will did, right?
Yeah.
Because as men, we feel we need to physically express ourselves.
Yes.
And the reason why we're acting out is because inside you this thing that just wants to explode. So I always tell my friends that, guys, it's important when we meet at Rockets, when we're drinking whiskeys, if one of us says, "Gents, I'm not okay," is to stop and ask, "Tell us why you're not okay."
Yeah.
Right? And don't say, "Hey man, order him another drink," and laugh about it, because that's the culture. That's the societal culture. And it goes across race, culture, some more ingrained than others.
Yeah.
I think we can people might say, "But you're not asked to provide." I think there's just pressure to provide.
Oh, no, absolutely. Inherently, yes.
I think as a man, you can't just wake up and say, "I'm going to be a house husband." Like, people are going to look at you like, "You want to be a what?" Right? So there's all these societal pressures that us men face that we need to deal with. And I think we don't deal with them properly, because that then leads to us acting out. Gender-based violence, I think, is another thing that manifests our suffering. And again, I'm not victim blaming. I think by the time somebody wants to kill themselves, and they kill their spouse first and then kill themselves, that person is depressed. You can't do, like, by the time you're thinking to do that in that moment, There is something fundamentally wrong with your brain. I wish there could be a study of brains of males that have killed their spouses and have killed themselves.
I would be very interested to see that as well. These are conversations that I've had with both men and women, actually. And you've hit a lot of points that I think fundamentally as a society we need to change. We need to change narratives. We need to change the way that we think. We need to change cognitive biases that we have, because we all have them. But while we're doing that, that's not going to happen overnight. While we're doing that, there are men like yourself who are just getting up every day and powering through. And I think the overarching message of the conversation that I have with you today is that depression is not going to go away, right? We can continue to fight these things. We can continue to fight these stereotypes. We can continue to fight ourselves and our biases. But the depression is going to be there until you, well, I mean, maybe forever, but until you actually look at it and face it. And accept it. You're not going to start getting better.
100%.
So what is the first step? Sorry.
Yeah. Yesterday I was watching a documentary on YouTube on addiction in the US on opioids.
Oh, it's bad.
And they have come to accept that addiction is a disease.
Yes.
That people who are addicts have got a genetic coding that lends them to having an addiction. Just as the same people who've got diabetes have got a genetic coding that will give them diabetes. And also there's levels of clinical depression that there are more people that are susceptible to being depressed because of genetic coding. And we need to look at depression as a disease. And it will always be there. And we'll leave this world and it will always be there. Because, I mean, I'll refer to the Bible. The story of Job. Job was depressed. You can see that that the man was in depression. They don't define it as depression, but it's got all the symptoms of it because he had just suffered this traumatic event. He lost his business, his family, all these things, and he just lost it. So even in time immemorial, there is that thing. And we need to look at it as a disease. So you need to tell yourself, I'm sick. How do I get better?
Yeah.
Right? Because if you don't look at it that way, you are going to not be able to find the first step to healing. And you need to tell yourself, I want to get better. I want to heal. Use those positive words. Then rather than I want the depression to go away, it's not going to go away. You just have to fight to get better.
Just like you're going to be fighting 160 kilometers.
Yes.
But this is another thing, right? You've really inspired me because a lot of the time speaking to therapists, they always say, move your body, the endorphins are going to get going and stuff. Maybe we don't have to move our bodies like you are. I think that you are
you don't.
On that side of the spectrum. But I do feel like getting out in the sun and moving your body. But how can we support you? Can we buy a kilometer? Where can we go to do that? What do we do?
So I think firstly, thanks very much for the platform. I think awareness is the goal for this. So already the awareness job is being done here, having this conversation. And then the second thing is you can buy a kilometer or you can donate any amount. You go to Bake Buddy, the website, and then look for 160 in 160. And then you donate. Any amount is welcome. I think it's what this money goes to. It's like donating blood. You know, one day you would think about, geez, like I'm depressed. Who can I call? And you would have contributed somehow to this because the guys at South African Depression and Anxiety Group, they'll always be there. I remember phoning them in the middle of the night, scared, did not know what to do. And they spoke through for 30 minutes until I calmed down and was able to wake up the next morning. Mm-hmm. So that's the sort of work that they do. So I encourage you guys to participate. Please donate. Any amount is welcome. And your support on the 7th of May, and your prayers will be great as well.
You know what, we will, but I don't think you need them. Bongani, where can we follow you? Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, all the things.
Yeah. So Facebook, it's Bongani Chinkanda, spelled Chinkanda. And then Instagram is Bonchi, BONCHI _Achanza, ACHANZA. And also on Twitter, there's no underscores, just Bonchi Achanza.
Awesome. Okay, so after the 7th of May, we'll give you a week to recover. And then would you please come back and tell us how much money you've raised and how 100%. You are?
Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. I'll probably be like in bed with my laptop. Yeah, cool.
Bongani, thank you so much. And thanks you for the work that you're doing.
Yeah,
from my family, this is a very important conversation.
Perfect. And I'm glad you've given me the platform for us to have this conversation. Thank you.
Awesome. Cheers. Have a great evening.
You too. Cheers.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Bye.
Jacaranda FM.